collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Coming up this week, shoddy journalism in Cyprus is ignoring fact-checking and giving public figures free rein to peddle inaccuracies.
He told the media that there were 34,000 asylum seekers in the country, when in fact the website of the Interior Ministry wrote 18.
Your digital footprint has a massive impact on the environment. Tomorrow is the day to start cleaning it up.
The CO2 emissions of the internet and its supporting systems are higher than the world airline industry's emissions.
And entries are invited for this year's cybersecurity challenge.
It's basically a gamified learning for people interested in information security. And the reason we have a theme is just to make it a bit more fun.
We're going to talk again on the programme about asylum seekers, migrants, and the response of the government of Cyprus. Now, you will know, I'm sure, that recently there was a length of barbed wire or razor wire put along parts of the Green Line, and this is all in response to the figures issued by the Interior Ministry claiming that some 4% of the population in Cyprus consists of migrants or asylum seekers. The question is, have we checked the figures? Well, my next guest has, and it would seem that they don't actually come up to scrutiny. Corina Dimitriou is an expert in fundamental rights for 2 European networks, and she joins us now. Corina, you've looked at these figures, so what's the problem with them?
Well, to start with, nobody has any idea of the number of migrants in the country. We only have an idea of the number of asylum seekers in the country because migrants are not registered. We may have overstayers, people who are registered may have left the country. So we're really talking about asylum seekers. According to Mr. Kouchos, the government spokesperson, the number is now up to 4% of the population. That would mean 36,000 asylum seekers. But in fact, the website of the Interior Ministry does not reflect that. According to the statistical record posted on the website of the Interior Ministry, in 2020, we had 7,000 new applications for the entire year, and there were almost 19,000 applications pending from previous years. So less than half of what the government spokesperson has said, which in fact is in line with similar statements made by the Interior Minister a year ago. A year ago, he told the media that there were 34,000 asylum seekers in the country, when in fact the website of the Interior Ministry wrote 18. At the time, this allegation was examined by the Journalistic Ethics Committee, the media watchdog, which found that, in fact, the number is inaccurate. It should not have been reproduced in the media without checking, and that the number includes all the asylum applications filed in Cyprus since Cyprus started having an asylum seeker, so a quarter of a century ago. And probably this is the same figure that Mr. Kouchos is citing now. So this is not the number of asylum seekers in the country. It's the number of asylum applications recorded for a quarter of a century. And I think it's important for journalists to check the figures before publishing them, or at least put questions to political persons when they claim asylum figures, when in fact the government itself publishes something else.
So are we saying here that the figures on the Interior Ministry website are correct and that the mouthpiece of the government isn't checking them before he speaks?
I'm sure that they are aware of the real figures. I don't think that it's a matter of lack of knowledge. I think that it's more to do with inflating the numbers for various reasons. I think that they are trying to secure a better deal from the EU, even though the EU is not going to be easily fooled by these inaccurate representations. They may be trying to repatriate votes which left from the governmental party and gone to Elam. So they're hoping with this rhetoric that they might attract far-right votes back into the party. I don't know. But this is not the first time that we hear government officials giving the media inaccurate information. We also remember the Manival report statements made by Mr. Nouriz. And I think it's important that people can rely on the media for at least investigating or questioning information supplied by political persons.
And has the Ethics Committee come back on this one? How many journalists did actually put out these false figures?
The latest statements made by the government spokesperson were reproduced in at least 5 major newspapers that I saw. And that was only 2 or 3 days ago, so I don't think a complaint has been filed yet with the Journalistic Ethics Committee. Personally, I will not file a complaint. I did file last year for the figures presented by the media citing the statements by Mr. Nouriz. And in fact, the Journalistic Ethics Committee did come back to say that the figures were wrong and the media were wrong to reproduce them. My latest experience with the Journalistic Ethics Committee was that the statements printed citing the minister's report about the Manival incident was that they are happy with the media just writing whatever the minister says, even if it's inaccurate. So the new Journalistic Ethics Committee believes that journalists should simply reproduce whatever government officials say without checking them, because that is a fact in itself. It was a very disappointing decision, and I think that it set the threshold for journalism very low, but that is for journalists themselves to fight and show that they're not just a mouthpiece of the government.
Yeah, I mean, it does really beg the question as to whether or not, if the Ethics Committee, first of all, requires somebody to complain before it investigates, that it doesn't actually comment on inaccuracies that are quotes, if you like. But journalists themselves, surely, before they print this, should go and check the information, and then they can still put it in a quote, but then say, however, the official figures are such and such.
Absolutely. It's number 1 article in the Journalistic Ethics Code that they're supposed to be implementing. In fact, since the new composition of the Journalistic Ethics Committee took over, the only self-initiated examination they made was the statements of Andreas Paraschos. That was the only thing that bothered them out of everything in the public sphere, which I found a little bit odd. But the last report that I had from them in response to my complaint was very clear. They do not see a duty for journalists to investigate, research, or at least, put another view next to the governmental position.
Well, it seems they don't care whether or not they check the facts. But who is on this ethics committee?
Well, it's possible to see that on the website of the Journalistic Ethics Committee. It's mostly journalists, which also poses questions of conflict of interest. When you have representatives of media outlets on the committee itself, how can they be expected to investigate themselves? Of course, self-regulation is an international practice. It's not a Cypriot innovation, but it doesn't seem to be working in Cyprus.
Do you expect there to be any comeback on this latest inaccurate reporting?
I don't expect a self-initiated investigation. Perhaps it might be worth filing a complaint and see how they respond to that, but it wouldn't surprise me if the response is the same as their response to the Manival media reports.
So it seems we can say pretty much whatever we like as journalists, and nobody's going to come back at us.
Except the government. The government might head you off.
Corina Dimitriou, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Haralambous.
Tomorrow, the 20th of March, is Digital Cleanup Day 2021, and Let's Do It Cyprus, in cooperation with CETA, is inviting you to get rid of all your digital trash. The project manager for Let's Do It Cyprus is Iliana Nicholson, who joins us now. Iliana, why exactly do we need to clean up our digital trash?
So a lot of people don't know that over half of the population on Earth uses the internet, but besides the positive effects on our modern societies, it also creates its own waste, the digital waste. And according to research that we have, the CO2 emissions of the internet and its supporting systems are higher than the world airline industry's emissions. So it's something that we do need to be aware of, to be educated about, and to basically help the environment by decluttering our digital waste, which I can explain further on how you can do it.
Okay, because, I mean, actually, whatever we do leaves a footprint of some form, doesn't it? And, I mean, people gave up writing letters because they wanted to save the trees and so on, but I don't think a lot of people realise the footprint that sending emails has, for example. I mean, I never send back an email that just says thank you, because I know that it leaves a footprint, but the figures are actually quite stunning, aren't they? 900 million tonnes of CO2 from the internet and its support systems. That's huge.
Exactly. And also, we do have some numbers from recent research that says that if every internet user would delete just one gigabyte of data from their cloud storage, we could save over 1 million tons in carbon emissions. So, I mean, it's a lot. Obviously, we're not saying to the world and to people, don't send out emails, don't take photos or videos. What we are saying is, you know what, a lot of people do have photos of their ex or videos that they don't, like downloaded movies that they don't watch anymore. Or, for example, a lot of junk email or emails that they have read and it dates back from 2015, for example. And a lot of people don't know that all this gigabyte storage actually makes your device work more, so it produces more CO2. So if everyone sort of simultaneously, well, we do this for the sake of the Global Digital Day, but you could do it any other day anyway. It would be nice to do it tomorrow, Saturday, which is what the Let's Do It World organization sort of promotes and says that it would be nice for all of us simultaneously to do it. But yeah, if you do it, then it means that you don't only basically save the planet, but you also expand the lifetime of your device. And I think decluttering in general helps people be more relaxed.
Yeah, I think probably it's a good idea to do what we all could call housekeeping on a regular basis, clearing your cache, deleting the junk, and so on and so forth. What about the energy consumption of all of this? Because presumably if your computer, laptop, phone or whatever is cluttered up with all this stuff, it uses more energy, does it?
Yes, of course. It all goes together. It uses more energy. And also it's not only, I think people also have to realize that it's not only the battery or the energy consumption or just one computer. For example, you work at a big company, it also has to do with the servers and the back office and everything. Everything that's considered to be digital clutter, it's also considered to be digital waste, digital rubbish. And it all sort of comes down to producing more emissions in the environment.
Right, now let's look at what happens when you do press the delete button. Where does it go and why is it saving? Because it's still somewhere. I mean, if the cyber cops come along, they can find it.
Yes, of course, I'm imagining they could, but actually I'm not the person to ask because I haven't studied IT and I don't really know about the cyberspace and how these things work. You're completely right, but I do think that even if the cyber police, let's say, finds it, all files are going to be compressed. So that means less, like even if somebody, let's say you download something that's illegal and then you delete it and then sort of you're being charged with something that because you downloaded the X file. Let's put it that way. I think it's going to be compressed anyway. So that means less gigabytes, so that means less emissions.
Now, explain how this cleanup day tomorrow is going to work. I know that there is a website, you'll tell us about that shortly, with steps as to how you can, however computer literate you are or are not, you can follow those guidelines. But how do you know how many people are going to actually do this? Because I presume it would be nice to quantify how many people around the world decided to do Let's Do It digital cleanup.
Yeah, well, we do know from the Let's Do It World. First, let me begin by saying that what is Let's Do It World? Let's Do It World is the largest environmental organization formed by active teams and member organizations, and it's established in more than 150 countries worldwide. So this is why we've got Let's Do It Cyprus as well. The World Cleanup Day, which first started as a day, obviously, where everyone, like from more than, again, 150 countries, they sort of said to people, you know what, let's just pick a day and let's all go simultaneously in all countries and clean up the rubbish. And again, we do know from data that since 2018, this has been bringing in more than 50 million people from 180 countries. I mean, even countries where the Let's Do It World branches are established, we do know that there are countries on board that actually do this. So the Digital World Cleanup Day, is sort of an extension to this World Cleanup Day. And what we do want from people is basically to delete everything. You can actually measure how many gigabytes you have deleted from your settings. I don't know if you've got Mac or if you've got Windows or even from your mobile, even from your photos and your video albums. I mean, you can actually measure it. And what the Let's Do It World organization sort of promotes and sort of says is people can actually go and register their results on their platform, which is digital.worldcleanupday.org. And sort of if you go and register your results, for example, I've deleted 40 gigabytes. You can sort of say, you know what, Ileana Nicholson has deleted, this sort of thing. And then they're going to put it in this large computer and they're going to say, you know what, this day actually, with this day, we actually have reduced X tons of CO2 emissions because we've reduced our digital footprint. In Cyprus, we sort of think that because of our mentality of being a bit more lazy, we do actually promote this. People do want to actually go and register their results, or they can send it to us and we can put in the results. But we've been giving more emphasis on education and sort of saying, you know what, guys, there are a lot of movements at the moment that do go and make actual cleanups, which is wonderful. But we also have this side, and you can actually do a cleanup just from your couch, just from sitting and just pressing clicks. And you actually do save the environment this way as well.
And of course, with the current lockdown and staying at home issues, that you've got plenty of time to do all of this. Of course, one of the things you can do, I think, is have an automated delete so that your files, I think it happens in a lot of mail servers anyway, after a certain amount of time they're automatically deleted if you're feeling lazy. But it's probably a good idea, is it, to go through your settings as well and remove apps you haven't used for a while?
Apps, and also we do know for a fact that a lot of photos and videos that are being unused, they do produce a lot of CO2 emissions as well. So this is why we were sort of tongue-in-cheek, sort of, we use like a very playful sentence on our social media and saying, you can do it like you can go and delete all those photos of your exes. Because again, we can cherish a lot of photos, but we do know for a fact that people, we do tend to keep a lot of files that we don't use. So yeah, or you can just put it on your hard disk or on a USB, but delete it on the actual device.
Any idea what 5G is going to have in terms of an effect on the amount of CO2 and the impact on the environment? Is it going to be better or worse?
I have absolutely no idea. For this Digital Cleanup Day, we partner with CETA, and I am sure that CETA, with all their geniuses and IT there, they will be able to provide your answers with 5G and its impact on climate.
But the main thing is, apropos of this chat, that you would like everybody to visit digital.worldcleanupday.org and do their little bit from the comfort of their home. Tomorrow, the 20th of March, you can enter your results on the website, and doubtless all your devices will run faster afterwards and be cleaner in terms of their environmental impact. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Ileana. I hope it goes well. We'll have to see how many people in Cyprus do indeed do a digital cleanup. Be cool, don't feed global warming with digital trash is the strapline on that website. So off you go, spend the weekend doing a digital cleanup.
You can subscribe to the Cyprus News Digest on iTunes for free and get the program downloaded to your phone or tablet so you can listen anytime, anywhere.
The Cyprus Computer Society has its annual Hackathon coming up between the 1st and the 18th of April this year. And we're going to be joined on the programme this week by one of the mentors who works with the young people who are being asked to take part. It's a whole long competition, but we've got to find out first whether or not hacking is the right word, because there are, in computer terms, black hats and white hats, the good guys and the bad guys, basically, of hacking. So Simon Loizides, who's a mentor, joins us. First of all, Simon, would you tell us about the difference between the black hats and the white hats?
Hi, Rosie. So thank you for having me. Just to quickly expand on this, basically, we want to stop using the word black hat and white hat and start distinguishing between criminals and just hackers. So we want the word hacking to not imply anything illegal by default, because it's just an activity. So how you apply it depends on the person, just like any other profession. So you have, for example, a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant, and then you also have unethical lawyers, accountants, and doctors. So we want the word hacking to go back to the original meaning, which implies by default that it's an ethical activity, and then those who choose to do it unethically are then basically breaking the law and are criminal.
Okay, but hacking is just something that people with a bit of knowledge of computers can do, probably should do in some cases. So give us examples of hacking that's ethical.
So an example is when someone, for example, a security practitioner working for a company has permission from another company to try to assess their system by finding and exploiting vulnerabilities in their software. And the reason this happens is so that security practitioner can then notify the company in question, so they can fix those vulnerabilities and prevent actual criminals from exploiting them, in order for the criminals to either steal their data, steal financial information, or steal money, etc.
So this Cyprus Cybersecurity Challenge that's coming up, this year it's been called the Queen's Gambit Edition. Now, why that? I mean, that's a very popular film, I know, and I'm sure a lot of the young people who are going to take part will have seen it, but why particularly is it being called that?
So let me just give you a bit of a background information on what type of competition it is. So the competition is called, it's a type of capture the flag competition, which these run online nearly every week all around the world. So basically, a capture the flag competition is a competition where you solve challenges to get flags. A flag is just a token, a string, to prove that you've actually solved that particular challenge. So it's basically a gamified learning for people interested in information security. And the reason we have a theme is just to make it a bit more fun. So last year, for example, the theme was The Witcher, which is another TV series, and it's also a video game. And this year we chose to have the theme of Queen's Gambit due to its popularity.
Okay, now what are the young people going to be doing if they sign up for this?
So usually capture the flag competition, there's two common types of capture the flag competition. The first type is called Jeopardy, and that's basically what the CTS 2021 competition will be. So it's basically like the popular American game show whereby the challenges are split up into categories, and then each challenge per category has a point value. So participants can pick and choose challenges from each category and different difficulties and solve them independently of one another. Those categories are cryptography, reverse engineering, binary exploitation, also known as POEM, web application security, and forensics. So these are sort of some common subdomains of information security, and there's going to be challenges for each of these categories. And basically, the goal of the competition is to promote learning hands-on skills. All these challenges are hands-on. They're not theory-based. You can't just go and read something and solve a challenge. You need to go and read, do research, and then actually go ahead and solve a challenge, interact with a system or some sort of data, solve a challenge, and get the flag. And when you get the flag, you submit it to the scoreboard, and you get the amount of points that challenge is worth. Yeah, so we're promoting gamified learning, and we're trying to promote teaching skills from an early age, so that then when these people move on to university, or if they have graduated university, or even if they have junior positions in industry, they just become better at whatever they're doing.
What is the age range of the people who can take part in this?
So the age range for the people who can actually take part there is no age range. Anyone can take part. There is an age range for those who will be then eligible to represent Cyprus in the ECSC competition, which is the European Cybersecurity Challenge. And that age range is between 14 and 26. So this competition also moonlights as the national qualifier of Cyprus to choose the national team.
Now, Cyprus has done very well, as I recall, in the past, in the European competition. So you choose how many people from the contestants in the one we've just been talking about in Cyprus, the Queen's Gambit, how many people get chosen to make up the Cyprus team to go to Europe, don't they?
Yes. There's 5 juniors and 5 seniors. A junior falls within the age ranges of 14 and 20, and seniors fall within the age range between 20 and 25. This year, due to the COVID pandemic, they extended it one more year, so from the ages of 20 to 26, so that people who last year of eligibility was 2020 could also participate this year.
And so where can people find out the details and put their names down?
So all the information needed and the registration form can be found at ctf.ccsc.org.cy.
And that is Simon Loizides, one of the mentors who will be working with the young people, or indeed maybe some of the older ones, who sign up for the Queen's Gambit edition of the Cyprus Cyber Security Challenge 2021. Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.